It's 9 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Markle?
Here.
Commissioner Matherly?
Here.
Commissioner Brella? Here.
And we're waiting for the agenda.
Oh.
I'm not sure where it went. But I think we can probably go, well, I probably need I don't have an agenda approved, so we'll have to wait till we get that. I know they emailed us one.
The one we got emailed was for next week.
Yeah, we got that, and I think we got one for,
I lost the ball.
Oh, darn, put it on there. No, I don't need to be heard.
I know we have an agenda emailed, but I don't. Here we go. Got it?
Are you rusty?
Jennifer had to redo the books yesterday a couple of times, so she didn't get to it, sorry.
That's okay. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda today.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. New business, public hearing for fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. And away we go.
All right, good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Really, there's only three major items categories of items that you need to look at today. The community services, the presentations that we had April 22nd, we need you to make some decisions on what to fund there. There is some updated capital outlay information. We did receive some quotes for some of the items that we had questions on previously. And then the salaries and benefits, just take a look at that and see if you want to do anything there. And then anything else that you may want to discuss or look at.
Okay, let's just start one at a time and go through them now.
I think so too. So we're just gonna start with community funding?
Yeah, let's start with that first.
Okay. So I know the request is to hire a housing development specialist.
Mhm.
And I know that I see the importance of that position. I just don't think we can be a part of that right now.
I don't think we can do that this year.
Yeah. And plus with some other projects we've got going on, it might automatically happen with funding in other places too. So it's not really excluding them from being able to do this, it just might delay them a little bit. So that's my thought.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think on the first one?
Yeah, Alamo
Okay, so
or
cut.
Otero, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, on the chamber, I think we should do this on the chamber, and the reason I think that is because right now they're our total economic development driver in Otero. They're working on apartment complexes. They have 4 projects. So I'm a yes for the chamber.
I'm a yes for the chamber.
Okay,
Main Street.
I'm a no on the food truck for Main Street. I just feel like right now with the budget restrictions that we're having this year, and not sure how that's really going to help the downtown area, which is our focus, so I'm a no on that.
Yeah, and I actually looked up, I Googled what the purpose of Main Street was supposed to be, and it's actually supposed to be development of that Main Street designated by that area when they applied to be in Alamogordo Main Street. And remember when they presented their presentation, I specifically asked how the other food truck owners felt about it. And not one food truck owner that I contacted said they had been asked that question. And they all are against a government-funded food truck to compete against them, as I was thinking. And so I did have a paper survey for proof of that. And with 51% of the vote leading that direction, and it's only because 54% participated in the vote out of 26. So I'm a no, but a lot of the feedback that I did get from the food truck industry is if we were to invest in anything to support them, that we would invest in some sort of a food park where they could set up, you know, and all that. So I actually contacted Sheila at the fairgrounds and asked her what it would take to set up in the parking lot, designate one Saturday a month or one evening a month or something, and allow them to come and sit. And you know, I'd asked her to put an application process, because obviously you got to provide insurance and
Right.
all of that. And so that we have a place for the food trucks to set up, and let's see if that's successful. And so she is working on that project right now.
It's a good
So
idea.
that supports our food trucks, and so I'm not leaving them high and dry. It's just that I don't support what Main Street's project is.
Okay.
So when you're saying you're not support, you're gonna go with their initial 40,000 or
Nope, I want to,
slash the 80 completely?
Yes.
yeah,
Okay. And that was the same as 100% Otero?
yes.
Right.
Okay.
The library, I kind of looked at their request. I didn't print it out.
And there's new paperwork attached to this,
To the big packet?
to the new one today. The updated. It's paperclip to that.
This one?
No, this right here.
It's attached to your community services funding.
have a copy I can give you.
This one.
There you go. Yeah, you got it. She got it. We just have lots of piles up here.
I know.
It takes a minute to figure it out.
There's my library.
Yeah. So this is new paperwork.
I'd make a recommendation, we do the same as we did last year, the 35.
That's exactly what I was leaning towards also. And I know it's a grant match, but we just don't have it.
Okay. I could go with the 35.
So 35 for that one.
Yep. Is Alamo Senior Citi, the senior center, I kind of have to support both of those.
say
I mean, we
yes.
need those. Those are definitely benefits for the community.
Yep.
Big Brothers Big Sisters is a new ask, and I
Yeah.
mean, I totally support them, but I don't think we can do that this year. We just can't, we can't even fund what we're already doing, let alone bring on new people.
For some reason, I marked $2,000. Let me see. For- Oh, so their breakdown of their funding request was 35 for a program coordinator, 4,000 for software, 8,000 for events, 2,000 for staff training and webinars to train on trauma-informed care, and 5,000 on marketing. And so when they did their presentation, I wrote $2,000 down to fund their staff training webinars on trauma mentoring practices.
I could go for that. You agree with that?
Yeah. So we,
On the Big Brothers Big Sisters, instead of the 54, we're gonna go to 2,000 for their training.
And did we ever get an ask for boundary line?
No, we're gonna move it to, like a membership instead of this, so we're taking that off of this one.
Okay.
you're taking the deduct off?
Yeah,
We're gonna move it to
We're
membership
gonna move it to
dues.
membership, so we'll take it completely off of this grant funding.
And capped, when she did her presentation, I wrote to fund the same thing we funded last year, the 25.
I had written down 20, so go 20,
The-
25,
Do the 25, that's,
okay. And the Community Power New Mexico New, I'm a no on that.
Yeah, there's just too much that they need to work on.
Yeah, well, and we just
Yep.
don't have the money right now.
COPE, I went back and just put the same thing they requested last year.
The 10,
Yeah.
I would do that.
The counseling center, I marked same thing as last year.
I did too. Or you, if you need to kick me or something.
Yep.
We're just kind of rolling along.
So that, you're leaving that one the same?
Yes. And on this dog breath, I say no.
I love
mean, I'm
dogs.
telling you, this increases every year. We already put so much into our animal shelter, and we just don't have the money. So I'm a no on that one.
On all of it completely?
Yes, I am. I mean,
Okay, I would like to fund what we funded last year.
The 35,000?
Yes.
And you want to do none of it?
well, we're spending a ton on our animal shelter. I mean, at some point, it's like, holy cow.
I want to spend $2 million on our animal shelter.
And I want to take care of our people.
I like our dogs better.
Sometimes they're easier to get along with.
Actually, if you'll look at the proposals on the animal shelter, we could take this money right here and do a lot to our animal shelter, what needs to be done.
I would rather add that. Since that's a permanent thing, I'd rather, if we're going to do anything with the money, I'd rather do it to our animal shelter.
Okay.
I
So this is the spay and neuter program.
don't want to, well,
I mean, the other thing is, just because they're asking for the 35 last year, 40 this year, if you want to reduce that to 15 or something, you could also do that as well.
that's kind of what I was thinking. Not totally done, but I was
Good with
thinking like,
15?
I was thinking like 10, but
I would do 10. I mean, I'm trying to cut this. We're
know.
so far over budget right now, that we're going to have to get real.
So what do we decide, 15?
10.
10.
Okay.
Okay, on the flick, I would be in support of giving them their cup holders because it protects our floor
Right.
from all the spills and everything, so.
I wrote 7,000 to fund their cup holders
Right,
alone.
right. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the cup holders and the installation, so I would go 7. Are you good with that?
yeah. That's what they were asking for on the cup holders, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Okay, on the High Rose Community Water Association, this is a new ask, and I
And they-
wasn't.
And they didn't have anything to present. What
We
they-
got, didn't we get something in this new? 'Cause I know at least we have
They
a,
were waiting also on the 501c3 designation
Right.
to make sure that that was active.
And commissioners, to be aware, there are a lot of water associations and mutual domestics. You kind of have to decide if you want to set a precedence for funding those or not. Because when we fund one,
I
others
know.
will come.
I mean, I know they need this really bad,
Yeah.
but, I mean, I don't think we have the money to do
And
that this
they-
year.
They get their 501c status fixed, they're eligible for grants.
lot of grants,
Like crazy,
yeah.
especially because they're designated fire.
Yeah,
So I say no, but we can help them do whatever they need to do.
okay, all right. And that is a chunk. Okay, keep Tularosa beautiful, I'm a yes on that one.
Okay?
Kids Inc., what did I do on there? I would say go back to the
5?
5.
Mm-hmm.
Mescalero Elderly Program, I say yes to their request for the 20. They do so much for their seniors up there. I mean, that's very needed in that community. And then the extension services, yes, because we have to meet that anyway, and they
Yep.
do great work out there. The Fair Association, we need to talk about, because definitely I don't want to fix those ticket booths right now. Because we're not even hardly using them. And some of the other things, we need to figure out what we want to do with them. Because it was repaired a lot of the buildings and removing those trees, which are a mess. But with everything that's going on with the fairground right now, I want to make sure we're,
What all were they totally asking for? I say get rid of that, doing that to those, all that money spent on those little ticket booths that they,
Yeah.
I don't really feel they use.
yeah, I don't, that was one thing too. The 199 in this book.
Yeah.
So what if we remove the trees?
The tree needs to come down because it's getting to be a safety deal and it's into the power lines.
And they are nasty. So I say leave the trees.
Okay,
No on the ticket booths.
Let's see.
South side of the way building, install our panel on sides.
that building, one of the last buildings that she showed us a picture of, that they wanted to convert into another office for emergency services. Because she was saying
Okay.
that during
You
the
can do it that way.
Readville fire, that she didn't have enough office space, and she wanted to make that an office space. I don't know if we really need to do that yet.
For once every couple of years.
Hopefully never again.
Yeah, no kidding.
Um,
So you didn't get past the repair on the south side of the Wade building.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
That, you need to do that, because that's, if it is as rotted and bad, I was gonna go out and look at that, but I would say our main structural buildings we need to take care of.
Take care of them. So do you think the repair on the building near the barn? That's a big one.
I think that's the one they wanted to add an office to.
Yes, in that one.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna put air conditioner in it, a split unit, and the whole 9 yards.
Is that included in that amount? Do we know? Because I don't know if we need another office out there right now.
I agree.
What if you cut that in half?
We could do
Yes.
that, and that way they can,
Let's cut it to
And then they could
20.
do the panel siding, whatever.
so 22.4.
Okay.
The expanded metal deal, probably a safety deal
Okay.
on those. They don't have much choice on that commercial equipment with the money you already got.
I know. Okay, so we'll do that. The 3 speakers for the pavilion, we probably need that. They need weed control, or else that's gonna get a mess out there. And then the water, I'm good with that, because that's not much money.
Okay, I say go back to the repair on the maintenance building and all that, totally scratch that out.
So the rotted
The-
ticket booths is a no.
Right?
And the other 44, I say get rid of completely.
Oh, I thought we were cutting that in half.
Yeah, but you still got a lot of, because that's only cutting 28,000, 48,000 out of that whole deal.
We can revisit that next year, depending on their
Yeah.
asks.
So we're saying no on the 44.8 completely.
That's just my opinion.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
And the 81,000, what did we say?
81,000?
I'm sorry.
Oh, 8,100?
8,100.
I think we are yes on that one.
Yes.
Okay,
That's the main structural building repair on it.
okay. And yes for the 650, and yes for the commercial equipment, yes for the speakers, yes for the weed control, and yes for the water filtration. Okay. So,
I don't know what that comes down to on the adjustment, Julianne, but
So we're just taking out the 44 4,800, right?
And
Yeah,
And the
44.8 and the
Oh, and the
26.5.
26,500, we're not doing that either?
No,
Oh, okay. So,
And the 6,085.55, we're taking that out. Oh, no, we're not, never mind, that's the pine trees.
Yeah, just
Scratch
those two
that.
items.
Yeah,
54,097 essentially.
54?
Yep, 54.
$54,096.55.
That's what we cut?
No, that's what's.
what it'll
what's
be
left.
now.
That's what's remaining.
What we're
Okay,
funding.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
54,
96.55.
Yes, on the film office.
Yes,
Yes, on soil and water.
absolutely, yes.
Now Presbyterian is something we have always paid.
Yeah.
It's an agreement we've had with the hospital. We're just now moving it into community services for the first time. It's usually come from somewhere else.
on the soil,
We, on this 100,000 for Presbyterian, we've always paid that
I
for
wondered
many
why we
years.
hadn't had it for very long.
Yeah, I think RB and I had discussions with them on how the agreement's set up, that they need to present to you and show you how they're using those funds, that it's offsetting costs. It's kind of like that whole services in lieu of rent thing, and this is another part of that agreement. RB thought it was better served under community services, but we've been paying it for many years.
Do we have any idea how many people that goes through this service? A lot?
There's only 2 clinics down there, one on either side. They had to expand a couple of years ago because it was just getting too busy. They have too many
the one down there?
shopper, oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people go through
Yeah,
there.
it's
All right.
well frequented,
Okay, well then, yes on that
and
one.
that's our building too.
And the rural
Right.
bookmobile, yes. Senior
I
services.
do have questions about their frequency and all of that. 'Cause I
On-
know
what's that?
before, on the mobile.
Oh, yeah.
book, Because before COVID, they were here all the time,
Mhm.
and now they're not.
Yeah.
So,
Let me reach out to the director and see if I can get you answers before next budget meeting.
okay.
Okay, I'll put a question mark on that one then.
Okay.
Yes, on Sacramento Mountain Senior.
Yes. Okay, Thrive, and I know they do a lot of good things, but I feel like we give them money, so they give it, and then they give it to some of the same people we give it to.
Exactly.
And so,
I was torn on that too when she made that statement. I'm like, it's kind of full circle, I get it.
well, and this is for administrative services, so that's kind of a big bucket of things.
Can we cut it? They've only used 29,000. Can we cut it to 30?
I say 20.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not kidding. We got to get right. We don't have the money
You
to
okay,
be
Gerald, at 20?
20?
Yeah, I'm-
on Thrive.
Timberon,
I know this is a new one, but I think we need to help timber on some. This isn't a whole lot of money, but when I was up there the other day for that fire meeting, they do a lot, this group does a lot to try to help clean things up and organize. So we could,
I kind of agree with you on that one.
I'm agree with
okay,
that.
okay.
I was kind of worried just because they are new
Mm-hmm.
and to make sure they weren't double doing what Firewise was doing and all
Right,
that kind of
yeah.
stuff. But if you.
It's pretty separate,
if
yeah.
you feel pretty good about it,
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
it's separate.
I'm a little confused on why they, the next one, the water,
Mm-hmm.
did a deduct. Because aren't they redoing all those water lines up there in Tiburon?
As fast as they can, yeah.
So why are they not asking for any help?
They apply for grants. They're an entity that's able to get grants and state funding.
So they don't want any money from us?
If I have to look in the book again, I know we pay for some of their waste disposal.
Yes, that's what they
I think
used
that's
the
what
grant
this
for.
is.
Yeah,
But
but they did not, they didn't submit a request this year.
Yeah, it's
So-
the blank.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't receive an application.
I just kind of thought that was weird, because after our discussion on those water lines, why would they not want any help?
I think there's also some crossover between personnel on the Tiburon Development Council and also on the Water and Sanitation District. Like that Brad Howard, he was previously, I contacted him about the water and sanitation. And I did have a correspondence from a gal named Wendy Case, but she never submitted anything. I tried, I gave them an extended deadline and then I never got anything back, so.
Okay. Okay, and I guess two of us that didn't submit anything. Yes, on the Tularosa Senior Program.
Yes.
Definitely yes on Weed Community Center.
Yes.
With Many Hands, that's a new one. I'm a no on that one.
No.
On the mini hands?
Yeah. And then Zia Therapy, I think we probably need to fund both of those.
I just seen where they're going to zero writing fairs.
They're not charging anything?
Right.
Why?
I don't know. I just seen the announcement on Facebook. So I was wondering if they had a new funding
I
resource.
saw that too.
Yeah, or,
Yeah, that doesn't make sense because they were so cheap anyway, you know.
what did we say on 100%? I can't read my handwriting.
We did 10.
Okay.
Oh, wait, hang on.
Would you mind just
Hang on
running
just a
down the
minute.
list again for me? Just so
Good,
I make sure I
yes.
have everything correct.
Oh, wait a minute. I have a no on 100%
So do
Otero.
I.
Yeah, I have a
scratched
no.
it out, so I wanted
This
to
is
make
my
sure.
worksheet, so this is
Okay.
the other one, so I have a no.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I had as well.
Did you want to go over them again, Julia? Is that what you
If you
said?
wouldn't mind, I just want to make sure I have everything correct.
Okay. Just start with 100 Otero, and that was a no. Yes for the chamber, no for Main Street, 35 for the library. Elmo Senior, yes on both of their asks. Big Brothers Big Sisters, 2,000. Boundary line we removed from this. Capped, 25,000. Community Power, no. Cope, 10,000. Counseling Center was the ask. And Dog Breath, 10,000. Flickinger Center, 7,000. High Rolls, Water Association was a no. Keep Tularosa Beautiful, yes. Kids Inc. was 5,000. Mescalero, we gave them their ask. The Co-op Services, their ask. Otero County Fair Association, we ended up with the 54,096.55. Otero Film, yes. Water Conservation, yes. Medical Services, yes. The Bookmobile, yes. Sacramento Senior Services, yes. Thrive, 20,000. Tiburon, yes. Tularosa Senior, yes. Weed Community, yes. Many Hands, no. And Zia Therapy, yes on both of their asks.
Thank you.
Do we save $1 million?
I'm sorry?
Just kidding.
Okay. Which one are you going to next?
Get all this put back together so I don't get lost.
I don't know if you wanted to look at the capital outlay next. I think we're still waiting on a quote. Sergeant Emery, I believe, is out of town right now. So there was a quote on that installation of the Cat 6 cabling for the network project that we had tentatively put like 50,000 for, but I don't know that we have any additional information. I think Abe said they did a walkthrough yesterday, but we're not gonna have a quote for probably till a week or so.
So this packet is from Abe.
Okay.
Somewhere,
And then Trent did forward some quotes on the animal shelter kennel repairs. Each wing of it is going to be $28,163.20. And then the canopies, $32,287.50, and you should have copies of those quotes.
the canopy be a much better deal, and the other one was like 45,000 for
Yeah.
that portable deal. This is one to be a permanent fixture, and the nice thing about it, if it ever needs to, you could go back and put pins underneath that canopy if you need portables for some reason. And it could be a good structure there. The other deal they came in with on the repair was doing it the right way. Let me put it that way.
Fixing it right?
Yes. And my understanding on this, from what I discussed with Trent, was this would be the welding company removing the panels, tearing them apart, building new ones, putting them in, and then Eric coming in as they do 4 at a time. Eric's gonna come in, clean the walls, repaint, reseal all the walls, and then working with this guy all the way through on the inside kennel part.
And what is the timeline for that, and where are we gonna put the dogs?
Well, that's what, that's just gonna have to be coordination with them out there, and, because the guy can come in and get measurements and build them, and then as soon as they start, it'll be a quick deal. Main thing is be getting coordination with Eric and the painting. Again, if they do the canopy first, they can do some panels out there and temporary set them out there, you know.
Yep.
So, can't do it in the winter time, but, so. But that canopy was a 20 by 75, so that's quite a bit bigger than what that other one was gonna be.
So I'm okay with the canopy.
The other, on the dog repair on the kennel part, that's gotta be done, or you're not gonna keep any dogs in there.
Right.
Oh, so these two added together is the 56.
Yes.
So it's like, what the heck, I got a duplicate here, but it's two different things.
So that's a yes for the 88,614 for the animal control.
Yeah, let me find that.
That's on the
It's on the
second page.
second page. See, these two, that one, and then the next one added together is the 56, 326.
I got
and the-
228s.
Yeah, so that's the 56 for the kennel repairs. And then the 32, 287 is this one. That's right there.
Yeah.
Well, I think we got to
Well-
do it.
Yep,
Yes, because the kennel repairs, you got 2 halves on that.
Yep,
That's what,
yep,
okay, all right, so we'll go with that.
yep. And then, so are we okay with the technology on the first page?
we need to wait on that one?
I think so too.
Because like Zuni came yesterday, Trent and I were talking this morning, and they told Trent that they think they can do it less than the 50,000, so it should be less on the cabling for all the, so I think we need to wait a little bit on that one and see what it comes in at.
I'm okay with that.
And we do have, our final budget meeting for the interim budget will be on May 27th. It's a Tuesday. And even at that point, because I don't have to submit it until June 1st, you can still make some decisions or make some changes at that point. So we should have this information by then, for
Oh,
sure,
yeah.
so.
Yeah. From what I think Trent told me, it would take them 2 or 3 days and they'd have that information.
Okay.
So if I understand it right, Abe, everything else, you've got information on everything else except for the cabling.
Yes, sir. For the, I know we got a support for putting in all the access points and everything. And when we were doing a walkthrough, we told Julia all that Warden had given us a good for all the access points and they were going to spread on all these buildings. So for the most part, it was right.
Yeah. So everything except for the cabling. So it'll just be a change of that number real
Yes.
quick. So-
Okay, so we'll just leave that as it is
Yeah.
until we,
And it could only be a couple thousand less. I mean, who knows, but.
I do actually have a question on the detention center, which is on page 3. You had approved 2 of the 2025 Chevy Tahoe prisoner systems, and the total for that would be $118,020. But what I'm wondering is, I know that the amount that we were appropriated from DFA for the sheriff's office or law enforcement vehicles, it actually was more than the 900,000. I want to say it was like, I don't remember. Pamela, do you remember how much it was off the top of your head?
I don't.
Because it was increased from what we originally saw. It was like 940,000 maybe, or
Yeah, like 943,000.
something. So what I'm wondering is, can we use, because these are still their prisoner system transports, can we use some of that money to pay for at least one of them?
Is that designated for those vehicles though? My understanding on that, Townsend had an extra 500,000 and he threw it into your budget or your request, so. But is it designated for vehicles? That's my question.
We'll have to wait until we see the grant agreement with the actual legislative language.
That's true.
Until we get that, it could
Because-
specifically say sheriff's office, it could say equipment, we just,
Yeah, it might just say law enforcement vehicles, we don't know. So, but depending on the language, I just thought maybe we could purchase at least one of them using the grant funding. Just a thought.
they don't sell the bonds until June, so we probably won't have that grant agreement until July.
Well, let's just approve one vehicle then.
and we could do that and so cut that one in half.
Yeah.
The 118,000 one?
Yeah,
$59.10.
I know, I was thinking, that 10 in there. Was it the only thing we were changing on that?
I think so.
That takes that down to 355,607.
What would you say that was, 355?
355,607. So if we start from the first one, just administration, so that's, we're good with that, the 368?
Yes.
Okay,
We start at the beginning?
yeah, let's just do that,
Yeah.
that's easier, keep jumping around.
I
I'm
am jumping
I'm like,
all
what
over
the
the place."
heck? Okay, and then we're, on the IT, we're holding
Yes.
to get that quote on that. Purchasing, 15, we're good. Okay, on maintenance facilities, they're going. Systems.
So on this facility maintenance, to reimburse on the chiller we talked about this morning, do we need to put some money in for that to reimburse for what we're?
Julianne and are gonna, no, we're gonna try to find it from other sources. I have one line item, 55,000. You two probably don't know what we're talking about. We need a new chiller on this building. It's functioning at 50% and has been for a while.
New
And we
what?
gotta get a chiller.
The air
Oh, a
conditioning.
chiller.
Yeah. And it's approximately.
I thought you said we need new children on the roof, and I
No,
thought, we
I heard-
absolutely do not need children on the roof.
Children twice.
It's approximately 215,000. I have 55,000. I found, I think between Julianne, Eric, and I, we can be pretty creative. We're getting to the end of the fiscal year. We have some line items that haven't been spent. I think we can find it, and it's an emergency purchase. We don't have time to wait.
Okay,
We gotta get it replaced before it gets hot.
So then we're removing.
But it's not something that's on here.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
it's
it's
not-
it's not
Oh,
on here,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
I'm strongly in favor of it. My office is very hot.
Mine's cold.
It's
Come
for our
sit downstairs.
I think he has a window that opens, he'll be fine.
No, that's
got
the
a
problem. It's painted shut.
Yeah, the
Oh.
windows
Yeah,
don't
all
open.
of them
I've
are
got a lot
painted
of
shut. I tried to
windows
open mine
in my
one day,
office, and I'm on the
and, yeah.
southwest side of the building, so it gets hot
Yeah.
there.
You okay with facility?
Uh,
I think so.
I think so. Okay, so,
That voting machines is reimbursable.
The what?
The voting machine elections.
the batteries,
Yes.
So why do we have to put that here when we get fully reimbursed for it by the state?
That's a good question. I mean, it probably should just be under their, like, regular, like, election expense or something, I don't know.
Because we get reimbursed after the election, so if we need it before that.
you have to pay for it and
we
then
have
they
to pay for it,
reimburse
and
you.
then they reimburse us.
Okay.
Okay, so we leave it in here and then,
We argue that
We-
every year.
I think we
I
do.
Yeah.
Okay, so, okay
And
on that.
also on the treasurers, they have some money available from this year's budget, so I believe they're going to try and purchase some of this $7,000 worth of minor capital outlay with the FY '25 budget. I just don't know which items yet, so that 7,000 will likely be reduced.
Okay, so we'll leave it as it is for now. Hopefully it goes down. And how about the property assessment? It's 6,000 on that one. We skipped over that one.
Yeah, we need to.
Annual computer replacement, so I say yes. Emergency services,
Yeah, we talked about doing one only for that cell tower.
right, we got that.
Operations plan. That operations plan,
He sent you some information, and that is the bare minimum. We talked about it again this morning. He does need that amount, he
I
says.
know, and I'm still questioning, because we are already funding a countywide fire plan. How can we,
I would have to go back and look at his email, but
I
I think,
read it, you
yeah.
know, and this is kind of, and it's separate, I
Yeah.
get it. It's gonna include earthquakes and wind and all that
Yeah.
stuff too, but it just seems that we could merge.
Is, RB, that's not part of the flood study too, is it? No, that's different.
It's this part right here.
Pretty much answers that
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
What did you write?
Right here, that paragraph.
Yeah, no, I know we need it. I just think we're double spending on the same thing.
But the Firewise thing is not really, that's kinda, some of the speakers on them have come from New Mexico State with the information. We haven't really spent we spent the postcards on the first time.
Yeah.
And we've approved $200,000 for the county emergency plan. And that's through grant funding that we've received that for. So the county plan, what it does is address every single asset that we have for evacuation points, for equipment that we have available, everything in the county in the event of a fire. And that's where we're identifying the fairgrounds one as our key location for emergency evacuation points and headquarters. So this plan is basically the same thing, but it's going to only include other disasters too. That's why I'm saying, and so this plan, they have to do the same thing. Our assets, our schools, our everything are included in this plan, and so we're double doing this.
Maybe put a hold on that 74,000 until we.
Do you
get
want to
info.
readdress it at the interim budget meeting?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
I mean, what if we were to wait until the fire plan was doing, and then we could just pull out of it and add for $20,000?
Instead of recreating the whole thing.
Right, that's,
Okay, and I think we agreed on the rifle range. I think we're good on that. Right?
yep.
Okay, and the animal shelter we did, and then finance, yes. Okay.
I know we went into long discussion about that vehicle. I think his original request was 2 vehicles, and then we said 1.
No, because typically Julianne would put here change to
Oh,
one.
okay.
It was one vehicle.
Maybe they have 2 that they need to retire, but only gonna retire 1. Maybe that was the discussion.
I think he said that there's a truck that he wanted to replace next, but
Okay,
I think
They're
they were asking.
replacing the Jeep this
Yeah,
time.
was a
yeah,
Jeep,
this
I think,
one's
yeah,
20
Jeep
years
is
old.
right, For
Yeah.
this time,
Okay.
and then there's a truck that they'll
Yeah.
probably ask for next year.
Yeah,
That's what I recall.
okay, so we're good on that?
yeah.
Okay, detention center. We already did the detention center. We good on all that?
Yes.
And when
Yeah.
I was at the last New Mexico Association of County meetings, I was talking to Grace Phillips, who's the insurance director now, and she was super excited about those bracelets for the prison. She said that should really help. So,
Okay.
Look at Tom
Road
sitting
shop.
over there with
I
counting this.
know.
Road shop, what, did you feel the lasers?
Well, we cut him, we gave him a pretty good haircut already. I think we kind of, this is what we agreed to, I think.
Yeah,
That's what we got.
Yeah, that's what I have down here.
Okay, so we're good?
Yes.
Hey, Tom. Okay, clerk's equipment, scanners and receipt. I don't see that in here. Where's that at?
The clerk's office.
Oh, there we
is-
go. It's on page 49.
And actually on the carbine E911 call handling, because they're already using that software, this probably should really be part of their like maintenance contracts and not really part of capital outlay.
I agree.
So,
I agree, so we're removing that?
Yeah, just put it in the other department.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're good on the clerks. Can check that off. And then the convenience center, I think we already
Yeah.
discussed this, so we're good on that.
We could get rid of that Vandalay, and that would save us $6,000 from that budget.
Get rid of that what?
I'm just saying,
It comes out of our clerk's fund, so it doesn't come out of the general.
but the clerk's fund is funded by the county, which funds
get a portion.
Vandalay.
Yes.
That'd be $6,000 we could just get rid of.
Okay. Done with that part?
I think we're done with that part.
Here comes the touchy one.
Those are the old ones.
Moving right along.
You need a bigger desk or a shredder? It's a toss-up.
So the emergency services, the new hire requests, that's all gone?
My understanding was that you cut all of those.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
And the records assistant for TBRDA is actually going to take one of the telecom positions and instead of that, one of the vacancies for that, for the telecom, and turn that into the records assistant. And that was something that the board had previously approved, so I did include it there.
So Tom Benz, you're the only one here with all the vacancies. How many vacancies can you get rid of? How many spots could you eliminate?
Well, right now, Gerald, we're running on a shoestring. I mean, I can get rid of a couple of them, like I said, to do, like we were talking the other day. But, you know, it's getting harder and harder to keep up with what we've got.
I understand that, but people's asking for raises. You and the detention center's got 20-something spots in there. You're at 12 that you have to figure all this money into.
Correct, and that's what I was saying the other day when we were riding out across the mesa. If I do away with one of the mechanics positions right now and one of the drivers, that would cover everything that I've got.
But you need the mechanic.
Right, but I'm down 4 right now, and one mechanic was a high-dollar mechanic, because he'd been with the county for a while. We did away with his, and we did away with one driver, that would take care of the raises I was requesting. I don't wanna do away with any more driver positions, because like I said, right now, even fulfilling all of those, we cut drivers year after year to do raises. And I don't wanna get any more of a shoestring on that side. Right now, I've got 4 trucks at different mechanics right now in different shops across the county, getting repairs done to them because of the fact that we're down 4 mechanics.
So if you did one and one, you're saying you could get rid of 2?
If I did one mechanic and one driver, that would cover everything I was requesting.
What is a driver? You got operator?
Operator one.
Operator 1, sorry.
So change that to 3,
And the fleet maintenance mechanic to 3.
to 3.
I wish Nina was here.
Me too.
You can readdress her on the 27th if need be.
Yeah.
The dispatch needs to be readdressed later too.
Yes. Yeah. But until we get a little deeper into it, it's kind of hard to evaluate right now.
Where's our list with all the, oh, it's in here. So everybody else is full, you're full?
I'm sorry, anybody what?
Employees, you're full?
Yes.
Everybody is full on the rest of
Other
them?
than what you see right there, yes.
He's still trying to hire his deputy county
Yeah,
attorney.
I have one.
Yeah, you got one that's open, but I don't see that on here.
Yeah, it's
Should
on
be on there.
the very, right up here on the very first page in the blue.
Oh, the one I messed up top?
And amazingly, the solid waste department has been fully staffed now for months. They haven't had any turnover, so that's a good thing.
That is a good
Maybe
thing.
knock on wood.
Yeah.
All right, so leave an RB spot in there?
Yeah, we need to,
And we gotta get him.
RB needs to hurry up and hire somebody. So emergency services has one vacancy, and I don't see where they're asking for more positions. They're just trying to reallocate positions.
They're just trying to
Well, they
fill
were-
that position. That code enforcement officer listed, it's
Right.
vacant and they're trying to fill it right now.
And then that other request was renaming positions and giving them raises at the same time, and that's what we said no to.
That's true, and that is
Okay.
actually included in the salary requests from the departments, those increases. Because it's current personnel, it's just changing the job title and as you mentioned, increases for them.
So their overall request, not including benefits, is $30,000 more, basically. 31
For the code enforcement, you mean?
for emergency services. And
Yes.
31,000, I
Yes,
see that.
yes,
So,
that's correct.
and that does not include the renaming of those positions
It
and
does,
those.
well, I mean, it does include what they were asking.
Okay,
So, in the current, it includes that vacancy. And then the request includes the increases for those different positions.
So Julianne, well, I'm understanding this right, like on the road shop, we eliminated those two positions that would take that 99,000 away?
So that would be. So. So that would be, the salaries and benefits on those two positions, it would be $136,658 that we would be saving from those two positions.
So that would
If
pretty
we cut
much
them.
go to a negative. Instead of the
Yeah,
99, it
that
would
we
be,
would reduce their cost, yes.
okay.
From the 823,350, reduce that down by 136,658.
This salary increase request, I'm assuming,
That is
just the
what
date
all the
on top
departments
hasn't been corrected?
asked for, yes. So that, I mean, each department asked for something different, and that includes all of their asks. The additional pages behind that would be just an overall from current, it would be just an overall either percentage increase or an overall dollar per hour increase.
Okay, so just this page, this says salary increase requests. I think it's just dated wrong, right? It should say 25, 26?
Yes.
Okay. So these salary increase requests, is it percentage straight across the board? Is that how
No,
you do
this
these
is what
numbers?
each department asked for. It's
For-
not a straight across the board. Some asked for nothing, some asked for 5%, some asked for 3%, some asked for $10,000 for certain people. It's
Okay,
all over the place. And you'd have to actually look through each department in that original funding request book to see what they were all asking for.
who
And so
requested
that
that?
is what is included in the department requests. The other two pages are just, those would be across the board. It's just as a comparison, so you can see what an across-the-board percentage increase would be compared to the department requests, or an across-the-board dollar per hour increase.
Who was that that requested the 5%? I don't remember. I remember seeing it, but I don't remember who it was.
I asked for 10.
I asked for 5 for the directors. Right, so that includes 5% for each of the department directors. And then I think, like her department, 3% for others. It just depends, each department literally was asking for something different, which, that's something that I wanted to kind of request from you as well. So next year, Pamela had asked me to start doing like a mid-year budget review, because we haven't really done that. So probably in January, we'll take a look at where we are before we start next year's budget. And it'd be good to have some guidance that we can give to the departments ahead of time. And then we talked about having a staff meeting to put that information out to all the department heads, so that we don't have this, well, I want 5,000, I want 5%, I want $3.50 all over the place. It makes it very tedious to try and budget that. And unfortunately, our financial software, the budgeting module is not very user-friendly, and it's difficult to utilize that way unless you're doing like an overall, like 5% or, $2.50 an hour or something like that for everyone. It's literally, you have to go into each department and make those adjustments based upon what they're asking. So maybe that's something next year, we decide if you're going to give raises, maybe set some guidelines on, you would consider a certain percentage or a certain dollar amount per hour or something like that. It's just something to think about.
Okay, so administration is 5% increase for directors, and not of non-elected departments, and 3% for everybody else in administration. Do we agree with that? So does her request for administration cover all the departments? That request of 3% recovered?
So
Covers
it would be
you and purchasing?
5% for the one department director, which is HR director, and then that's the only actual department director within admin, other than Pamela herself. Everyone else in admin, and as of next year, there will be 7, so the other 6 individuals would receive 3%. But then the department directors from all the other departments, like, purchasing and IT and finance and the county attorney and everyone else who's a department director would receive a 5%. That's what she's asking for, except for the elected official departments because, their salaries are set by state statute, so.
Not anymore.
No,
No, we can change that.
we can?
Yeah.
For the elected officials? Okay.
Just FYI.
Say that
I did
again?
not know that. Thank you. I'm glad you're here.
So what did we clarify?
That elected official salaries are no longer capped or dictated by the state. You as the commission have the leeway to set them at what you agree to. So I think to Commissioner Barella's question, so what the county managers asked for, besides the personnel and admin, it applies to directors, but it would not apply to the employees in those departments.
Okay.
So clarification on that when talking about the directors, that's purchasing, HR,
Road shop, solid
road,
waste.
okay, all the
yeah,
departments?
Yeah, all the departments.
Okay, so Pam's asked 5% department head, 3% for
For my
who's
staff,
under her.
yeah.
Okay. I'm okay with the 3%, if that's what we're gonna do. But we needed to make it fair for everybody.
Well,
I
So
know-
if you did a 3% for example, for everyone, but I did not include the elected official departments in this, just because I didn't think that we could make that change, but I guess you can make that decision to change that. But a 3% increase would be approximately 581,000.
So, one more caveat to that. It only goes into effect when a new official comes in.
Okay.
So we can't, if you did something like this, it wouldn't apply.
It wouldn't
the
apply to
current-
anyone currently. And that's kind of how we had done it in the past when we moved everyone up from, remember originally we were on like I think it was the 2011 amendment to the statute for the elected official salaries. We got everyone moved up to the 2013, and now we're in the process of moving everyone up to the current, which is 2018. However, they did make that decision that you can, change that. So I guess 2 years when we have,
It would apply to.
that would apply to those new officials coming in, or if
But,
the same,
Yeah, I would
yeah.
recommend.
and that needs to be on next year's budget, not this one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I recommend any changes to elected official salary be separate and be done very individually and specifically to those positions.
And by resolution, right?
Yeah.
yes, okay, that makes sense.
See, this one's got the breakdown, if that's the 2%, 3%, and so that's what the total would be, that's the increase over 2025 budget. And then that's 5% that's the increase, and then that's 7, that's the increase.
So I'm just kind of going back through the departments. Purchasing asked for a 5% raise for the manager, which is already included in your request. And then 5% raise for all employees. I think we need to go back to, if we're gonna stay with 3%, then we need to make it 3%. Is that,
I think that's fair.
Yeah, your options really are to address each department individually or go across the board. Those are your options, basically.
I would just say, for me, it's a whole lot easier if it's just across the board. Plus, I think, it makes it better for everyone knowing that everyone's getting the same thing. So there's not this, oh, well, how come they got this much and we only got this much, just based upon what their director happened to ask for. So if a director chose not to ask for anything, then they potentially would not get anything, So I don't know that I like that idea either.
Something else to consider with that.
I know where you're going with that.
Is, if it's just a raise for all employees, I agree, but if it is submitted individually as a merit-based one, then I would say it might be worth considering that differently. That all employees get a certain amount because that's just accounting for cost of living, but if someone submits an employee because they've gone above and beyond that, then you might give consideration to
That makes sense.
giving them something higher.
I think you also need to take into consideration employee evaluations are required by policy, and a lot of departments don't do that. So if you're gonna do merit, it should be based off evaluations and the actual performance on paper of the employee. Just,
Needs to be some sort of evidence, not, they're great, I like them.
Yeah.
and you could set something when we do mid-year budget review in January, if we're gonna go merit-based next year, to say, you will not get merit raises unless your evaluations are completed. You have a lot to consider.
I like merit-based raises, 1,000% more.
So you need to, if you're gonna do something across the board, then you need to take Tom's whole situation out, because that's not right to that department.
Right, he shouldn't be cut positions just so you can give across the board to every department.
Well, and with all those opening positions, that's still a way to cut the budget, but are you still,
The thing is, if you raise those vacancies, that percentage, you may get more applicants if it's a little bit higher pay. It's-
they just don't wanna work for Tom? Joking, I'm joking.
Okay, so the number that you put in here, you said you put in what the departments requested are these numbers. So then we
Yes.
need to fix the purchasing number to 3% versus 5% for their request.
I mean, yeah, you could do that.
Okay.
And I know there were some departments that specifically requested merits for individual people.
Right.
And you could consider those as well. So I know like the clerk's office did that, RB did that, the rifle range did that, Tom's department did that. Not everyone did, some just asked for like an overall for everybody. It wasn't specifically a merit based upon, actual, I guess, evaluations and everything, so.
And it doesn't look like Eric requested anything.
Oh, yeah, some departments didn't.
Okay, so we're leaving Eric out?
Are you considering raises department by department and only considering that?
I'm just, since she said that she put in the budget by department their exact request, that's what's going back through their requests.
Okay.
And we just honor it the way they asked, except,
Or you go off of this right here, the 3% is off what they are making now, and that's what it is.
so that's still an increase of 580,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so what have we cut from the budget to be able to find that 580,000? Have we cut enough from the budget to recover that?
We cut quite a bit on the community services. I didn't add it up yet.
I don't think we got to
It's
580.
not 580 though.
I don't think it's that much, no.
Just roughly, you did cut, I think, a little over 300,000.
So because,
So if we can get with Nina and work out, if we can still eliminate a couple of these positions and give raises, that's going to, like Nina's got detention officers, she's got 10 of them. If she could cut 2 of that, you're adding a pretty big chunk to that raise increase money. We can cut Eric's department
yeah, we
by
did. we just-
50%.
You're too late.
Clarify, because I actually did submit an increase for my
He did for Alicia.
I'm looking at it. You're open right now.
It's in my paperwork.
I don't see it.
But is that a possibility? If they're wanting raises across somewhere, you've got to free up something. All it is moving the numbers around. But basically,
Yes.
you create, reducing this number to make this number
On the second.
work out. But
Right.
Found it, Eric.
Had to turn the page.
He's got to come represent his peeps. Have a mutiny when he gets back to the office.
so are you willing to still do that, Tom?
Okay, so
Am I getting the raises I requested?
we
Or
haven't
am
made
I
it to you
throwing
yet.
into the pot for everybody?
We haven't made it to you yet.
Well, no, he just asked, so I'm asking the question.
I'm still at
I
the
don't
very-
mind cutting the 2 positions if I'm gonna get the raises that I requested. I'll cut 1 if it's gonna give everybody a raise. You know, I knocked almost $2 million off my budget in the last month when we had a commission, when we had our first budget here.
That's all?
That's all.
So can I make a comment? So let me tell you what, I've been able to take from my budget numbers, and that's how I've been giving increases over the last few years, and cutting positions. So I haven't come, this is the first time since I've been a director that I've come to the commission asking for any kind of money. When we do a 3% across or 2%, what ends up happening is you have people that have been here for a long time. So with attrition, you have somebody that's at a lower position making as much or more than somebody at a skilled position. And that, I think, is what is frowned upon and what is looked at as why? Because you're not putting a cap, there's no caps on positions or anything. So that's what ends up happening, is somebody's been here for 10, 15 years, so they're getting that 3%, and they're still way above this guy that came in 6 years ago, but this guy's at a different position where he should be making more money. So I think with the merit raises, that was a good idea, and that's what the design was, so that people that are fulfilling their positions and getting good reviews are being rewarded for that. And the ones that aren't are good where they are. I guess that's the best way I could say it.
So Eric is requesting $1 raise for 1 position. I would agree with that.
Mhm.
That's his request. Is that in here like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
that is correct.
Okay.
So
But what he's also talking about is the fact that the county currently does not have a classification system for our employees. If we had a specific classification system, then you could set a minimum, a mid, and a max. And, depending upon the job duties and everything, but we don't have that in place. I think.
Actually, we do have a wage and compensation study that does show the median, the minimum, the median, and the high numbers for each position in the county. And got the board to approve many years ago to pay $50,000 for that study so that we could get everybody where they should be and competitive with other agencies and businesses. And the board refused to adopt it because they thought it meant they had to give everybody those pay raises where it showed people were underpaid. That wasn't the purpose of it, but it was so that we could slowly get to a point where everybody was where they were supposed to be.
So here's another example of that, what Eric is talking about, and I'm just using this one person as an example. The Treasury Department over there just hired a new position where those other two ladies have been in there for 10, 15, 20 years?
Not that long, but
But
they've been
a
in there a
long
while.
time, say
yes.
10 years
Yeah.
plus. And then you bring a brand new one in, and then they get a raise instantly, and they're only $1 less or whatever than the ones that's been there forever, so. I agree with what Eric's saying. I don't know how to really go about everybody doing it, or getting everything, but I don't know, come up with that plan.
Honestly, Commissioners, 2 years ago, you directed us to do merit, to go forward with merit raises. It was you yourself that actually directed that. I think the department heads that have actually tried to do that, to compensate their employees that have gone above and beyond. I've got a handful of them
Yeah,
that have gone above and beyond, and I mean, they've proven their worth time and time again. And like Eric says, versus the ones that are floating along and getting, it's not fair to the ones that are busting their butts versus the ones that are just floating along. Hey, I've been here 20 years, I'm making more than you, and I'm doing half the work.
Challenge is it's hard for you to do it sitting up there. It needs a lot of thought and looking back and forth to kind of analyze it and come up with.
the thing is, we give raises every year since I've been here, and the people paying the taxes that's paying these people, they're not getting raises every year. Those working people out in the community that are paying the taxes for all these people, they're not getting that kind of benefit with the insurance and the vacation and all that. You gotta look at it from the real world character too. And you just can't expect every year to get a raise. And I realize the cost of living goes up, but them people up there working, man. I just had to go through that my whole life, so I know what it's like. And then to have one of, I'll just shut up right there.
So if we're gonna go merit-based,
If you went back, Julianne, what was the number, if you went back for what each department was asking, what was that number?
The total increase for what each department was asking was 1.3 million, 1,315,000.
Okay, so, and then how much more was that than what it was last year?
Last year, we didn't give any raises. So,
Yeah.
No, we didn't last year. It was a year before.
I thought we gave them last year too.
no.
Okay, so that increase from last year's salary, what's that increase?
So, if you look at this page, this is what our current FY '25 salaries and benefits come to,
Right here,
which is
this
20,471,000. And with all of the department requests.
So it's
increases,
1,300,000 more than what it was last year?
no.
That's what all the departments are requesting overall, based upon whatever they asked for.
How can they justify that?
I'm just the messenger.
I understand that.
This is what they asked for, so.
But they need, I hope they're listening, how can they justify 1.3 million in 1 year? That's what they need to tell us. They've gotten raises all along, and 1.3 million, when the tax rate has not went up, where does that money come from?
I mean, it's also across 25 different departments too, so.
I understand that, it's still $1.3 million.
That's what's being requested, yes.
I understand that. And the total budget was 10 million when we started this deal from what it was last year. So where did that money come from? I don't want to sound like the bad guy here, but there's a real world you got to think about. So how do you really fix this? Come on, geniuses, do us in here.
So
Take more money in, but we're not, so that's the problem.
I think if we go by department and their requests, Pamela has asked for 5% department heads, 3% for her employees. And then we have purchasing asking 5% for the manager, which has already been in Pam's request. And then she's asking for 5%, we need to lower that to 3%. What did you say? If we go by ask for the department, and like Eric, he's asked for one raise, one employee of $1. So we honor that request. You see where I'm going with this?
Yep.
Just if we're gonna honor the department request by merit, then we can, because I think these numbers are 3% straight across the board is what you're presenting to us, right?
On this one,
On that
on
second
this
page
sheet.
that has percentage
First page
increases,
is
yes.
not.
There's the current, and then
See,
what
this
it
is
would
the
be
3%
with a
there,
3,
and it
5, or
increases
7%
that.
increase.
So where is the numbers by department requests?
That's,
That's this page,
I mean, this is a summary of that, this first page.
okay? So I'm just gonna go to Eric, facilities. So,
So if you see his FY '25 was 85,245, this would put him at 86,426.
okay, so,
So that, this is kind of, shows you the
okay,
increases.
so,
That's just the benefits. The
Well, yeah,
salaries
well,
are
salaries and
430, yeah.
benefits, But comparable, the 2 years.
so from 438 to 444.
Mhm.
It's like if you went with the max on the second page of 7% across the board, it's less than the first page, where in each department is their individual ask with the merits.
So potentially with a 7%, we'd be, okay, so I get what you're
It's still
saying.
less,
It's
yeah.
less than what all the departments combined are asking for.
Which is just kind of wild.
Yeah.
That is, that sounds crazy.
But I don't know, Tom's example, for some that he's asked, I don't know the 7% would come up to what he's asking for.
Wouldn't.
And that's where
Yeah.
some of these,
So, Commissioners, like with my department, if I gave up the 2 positions and you did 70% across the board for the road department, that would probably still make up the difference of what I'm asking. Versus the percentage for the bulk of the employees and the few merits I put in there, if you just did everybody 7%, the 2 positions that I was gonna do away with would pay for that 7%.
okay, so you're willing to give up 2 positions to take care of your deal, but what about the other people that are not willing to give up nothing? They ask for more.
I hate sounding this
So-
way, Commissioner, but I'm out here for my crew.
I understand that. I understand that, but I'm just saying, okay, there's a solution for you. But what about, okay, let's talk about David. He's got a major budget number 2. And we ain't got to that yet, but it's, I mean, there's a prime example. And then Eric sitting here asking for $1 raise for one guy. I mean,
That is,
it's like this.
That is a way to do it. I mean, I thought Commissioner Barella, I heard her, I don't know where she said it, but she said anyone asking for a raise needed to cut 10% out of their budget to be considered. So I know with my ask, I cut stuff out to justify. and
I can
account
cut
for it.
10%, but I have to get rid of a person. It's not feasible for every department to do that.
If you look at the first page, the road department asks, and I'm just talking about salaries, I'm not looking at benefits. The road department asks is actually slightly less than what a 7% raise would be. So 7% would cover their asks.
I mean, I understand it, but I can reach down in that bucket when there's nothing in that bucket to pull out. What are you gonna do with it? You can give it all day long. Give them 100% raise, but if there's nothing in that bucket to replenish it, what are you gonna do? I mean, explain it to me. I mean,
It's gotta come from somewhere.
yeah. And the people don't want, the taxpayers don't want to hear, it. Well, let's raise the taxes. That'll have to go to a vote, and that'll get voted down. So you still don't have anything to fill that bucket up to pull it out of. I mean, I wish we could give everybody every year, but it's. And the road shop, you take the oil, it's not the same price as it was 10 years ago whenever it was setting. So the last big major tax was 15, 14, whenever they did, and that was the whole harmless tax, right? So I mean, it's, the things that were 10 years ago, what, our 6 point whatever it is percentage, it's not like what it was. And we still are expecting to do the same service.
So the, D-
Sorry.
so using that, DWI program, they're asking for raises. And I see them less in the community than I've ever seen them before. We have proms going on. I don't see the cars set up for drinking and driving. I don't see any of that. So,
One thing to consider with DWI, that's grant funded. That doesn't come out of your general operating.
so their request doesn't go through us?
It doesn't go through general operating. They submit a grant request every year, a funding package, and then the state approves or cuts or denies. They kind of function a little like a fire department.
What was you gonna say, Arby?
And I don't know how this breaks down specifically on the math, but just thinking it through, everything cost-wise has gone up. And our tax rate has remained the same, but because things are more expensive, we should still be bringing in more taxes.
That's correct.
I don't know if it's all proportional, but it's all going up.
But the problem is with that, RB, is you would think yes, but the legislature brought this in. Now there are less taxes coming in on the property taxes. If you're disability, you're getting less taxes there, whatever your disability rate is. I mean, they're going on and on, so that makes
There
that
is
bucket
that.
even smaller
Yeah.
or
I was
deeper.
talking on GRT,
But
the counter to
GRTs
it
hasn't
is-
changed.
But-
If the GRTs changed with the inflation, I wouldn't have any problem with that.
But didn't the legislation vote to increase from 1/3 taxable property value to 40% taxable value? I think that passed.
Well, you'd
So
have to
we're-
ask James on that, but
I'm pretty sure, so it's not much of an increase, but it's a little bit of an increase for property tax collections. And I think they did that for the purposes offset from the veterans exemptions.
my whole thing is, the money level is not anymore. It's going down, if you want to know the truth. Next year, it will go down when all these new laws come in. And your pot is going up. How do you pay for it? Explain it to me and I'll go for whatever y'all come up with, if you can make it work. Because in my eyes, if you got one pot going down that you're supposed to pay out of and your pot that you have to pay goes higher, you're not gonna be in business very long, in my world. So how do you do it? I mean, I'm looking at you, RB, you always come up with the solutions, so.
He's like, how did I get into this?
But
I got ideas, but they're not legal.
Let's hear.
Not on the record.
So really, it's more expensive for us to go by department for their request than it is just to, I say,
But if you do that, then the people that are actually asking for merit raises aren't getting that. They're getting the
same as everybody else.
same as everybody else.
My personal opinion, Commissioners, is that at the end of the day, any raise is appreciated.
I understand that, Eric.
And I understand what you're saying. And our unfortunate downfall, I believe, because I've been here a few years, like Pam said, is that we started way behind the curve. You guys have done leaps and bounds to get us up, but we're still way behind the curve. We're nowhere near where we should be now. That's why your pot is so uneven.
Well,
And the only way, what I researched and found out, the only way to make it fair for my department is I had to dip within my department to balance out those salaries so that it wasn't such a staircase of up and down. So that when the percentage increases came in, everybody moved at the same level. But like I'm telling you, you have people that have been here long enough that they're making way more, so that scale just keeps going like this, it doesn't go like this. Not that I'm discouraging percentage raises or giving raises, but that's why the numbers look so much the way they do, is because our pay scale's already way behind. And like Pamela said, we did do the wage study, but not everybody was brought up to the level that they should have been at that point. So I think that's where us as directors look at a lot of different factors, not only the economy and people with families and those types of things. And yes, we benefit by getting medical and those kinds of things, but everybody's got to make a living.
and I agree with you 100%, but you gotta have money to pay that. And tell me where that money comes from.
And I wish I could.
That's
above my pay grade.
Next year, it's gonna be less.
But I also understand that as employees, one of the greatest things you can do is reward them for their merit and for their performance. And as that starts falling off, that starts going down. So you get people doing the bare minimum, you get people calling into work and those types of things, which is the flip side of that. And you start losing good employees, you start losing that experience.
I understand that, Eric, but what I'm saying, the bottom line is, just tell me how to make the going out pot get fuller, because it can only go out so long. And with all your little chiller thing, there's 200 and something thousand right there that, okay, now they're scrambling to add that little thing into it. So you're gonna have AC units down there on that prison. How many are you gonna have go out next year on that? 2, 3, there's another 100,000. So I'm not trying to be the bad guy here, but I just gotta figure out where, if it takes 250 studs to build a house and I only got enough money for 200, how am I gonna do that? Explain it. That's my world of thinking right there, so figure out how I can do it.
Cut them in half and build a mini home?
So what I can do, which I probably should have done previously, is go through each department, and if they're asking for a specific merit for a specific individual, I can put that together for each department and send that to you.
Let's do
So that
that.
you can at least see
Because
each
I like
department's
the
specific
merit.
merit raises. Now, if they're asking for just an overall, like 5% or 3% or $5 an hour or whatever, I'm not gonna send you that. Yes, that's part of their ask, but they're not requesting a specific merit increase. So at least you can see what the specific individuals, what was requested based upon that. And then, you can take that into consideration for those specific departments. And then, I don't know, if you still wanted to do like a 3% overall and then consider those additional merits, that's a possibility.
So like Tom's request is 10% merit-based, and then he has written 3.5% for all. I would say, let's look at the numbers with the 10% of the merit base that he's requesting, and then 3%. And the same with purchasing, lower that to 3%, and run those numbers that way. And so look through the merit based, put those numbers in, and if they request some sort of a percentage, make it 3%. If they don't, nothing.
Okay.
But the 3%, that's great if you're one of the top way up there and you making, but you take, and I'm not downgrading Tom's department, but some of his guys are probably the lower paid employees of the county. 3%, yeah, it helps, everything helps, but, so 3% of their deals gives them $1.50 an hour raise. Take these other departments, and it could be $2, $3 an hour raise. So how is that fair? It's not. So you either need to go buy them, each one of them individually, and break it down. I don't know, but, and then you still gotta figure out where it comes from. Tell me that, that's all I wanna know right there.
Commissioner,
Where you worked, if you couldn't pay the bills, were you gonna keep the doors open?
No.
All right.
Commissioner, so 3% on one of my new truck drivers starting is 54 cents an hour raise.
And it's still not compatible with Mesa Verde, still not compatible with the state.
And we're nowhere near, and I don't wanna go contractor because that's a different world. You and I both know that, we both come from contractor. But now the state and the state and the county road departments are night and day on what they're paying. Because the state realized what's going on. And I'm not saying we need to match that, but we've got benefit for benefit with what the state has basically, with retirement, health, vacation time, all that. And they're right now almost $5 an hour more than what we're off.
Well, I believe it,
And
but that's a different funding, that's a funding access that's totally different.
And I understand we cannot do apples and oranges, and that's not what I'm asking for.
So if I understand what this sheet says and what Julianne just told me, and this is the estimated scheduled unrestricted cash, this sheet, it has incorporated into it page 1 of the salaries, and that's the individual department request, the 1.3 million. It's estimated if everything goes as projected, that there would be just under 25 million left over at the end of the year. So
What now?
so if we did that, would that mean that our beginning
Yeah.
cash
So that's
July
25
1st is
million.
25 million
Yes, of next year.
of next year?
Yeah, right here.
Right there.
Yes.
What was it the year before? You know?
Well, this year, we're projecting it's gonna be about 42 million. I'd have to go back to last year's to see what it was. Let me see if I can find that.
So
And
that-
you're in-
I mean, yeah,
that-
everything is going up, and yes, you know, these balances have been coming down somewhat over the years, but, let's see.
So what's the, on the restricted cash, you're 6 million less. The
That's
next,
how much we have to keep in there. We can't, that's a minimum we have to keep in
Right.
those
That's,
line
okay,
items.
so that brings that
Yeah,
down,
the
that
state
total
requires
down to
that.
the 18.
18.
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, that is concerning if this, July 1st, we would be starting with 42, and the next year, the starting balance is 25, that's 12, 17, 17 million downward thing, and I'm sure if we played that out over 8 years, it would be uncomfortably close to low numbers that we would want. So that supports what Gerald's saying.
Waiting for this to open.
I mean, I'm for giving you the moon if you can just tell me how we can do it and the county can survive.
Well, we've implemented all of the gross receipts tax that we can without a referendum. There is still some that could be implemented with a referendum. But, you know, that goes to a vote, which, you know,
I mean, we
see that pass.
eliminated, Tom thinking he eliminated $2 million. We eliminated $1 million of that through that ditch crew deal, putting that on hold, trying to make things better. But, which is backing up, going backwards. We started that to try to get to a goal, to make an achievement here, and now we're going backwards on that. And we're gonna give another 1.3 million in raises.
Right.
So, I mean, you backing up, you might as well put backup lights on everything, because we're just going the other way. But I mean, figure out how you can do it and make the county survive. That's what I'm asking. I can't do that in the real world, I can assure you of that. So the other question is, what if this courthouse comes in at more money than what we had thought about? What are we gonna do? Where are you gonna find that money at?
We're going to the state.
You're going to the state. Good luck with that one.
Might I remind you, we also have some lawsuits outstanding that could dip into not only our emergency reserves, but other areas.
Yep.
Oil and gas. It's the only way. There's really no other sources of revenue for us. And that's a long shot because of the laws that the state has put in place.
I mean, there's a lot of key things that are happening that a lot of the county people don't know about. Your lawsuits, which is not pennies. That courthouse, if it goes more.
We hired that fancy person to make sure it's not gonna go for more.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Tell me it's coming out
That
of
whole
their pay.
contract could
Yes.
fall apart yet.
So let's talk the sheriff's office. We have an increased request of $630,000.
So that's a union thing too. I don't know how you get around, how do you get around it? How do you fight that?
You just have to negotiate it and agree to it with the county and the union rep.
Gotta get rid of the union. I mean,
And David, correct me if I'm wrong, but the salary and the amount hasn't been negotiated yet until they get a feel for where the board is going?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
their decision on it, was what do we have to play with? What
Okay.
do we have to work with? So this is what I've come up with. This was what, we didn't take a increase last year. We get an increase at all. So I felt that this was fair here. And again, I don't like the percentages, just because I got these employees out here that if they're not working at the right standards, they're usually gone. So, I mean, everybody that's there, I think meets the standard to receive a raise and stuff.
This is what we started this year.
So that's why I've asked for that. And I did throw that second part in as far as the positions and stuff. I wanted to throw in also that grant that's coming up. That is a possibility. If we apply for that grant, we can cut that down to where the county only pays $64,000 in a 3-year period.
I mean, this is just an estimate too.
do the union dues automatically come out of their paycheck, or do they pay them themselves?
I believe they're deducted, aren't they?
Yeah, they're
Yeah, from their paycheck.
How can we change it? If they want to be a part of the union, they're responsible to pay their own union dues, not the county. So they get paid, but if they want, they can drive themselves and pay their own union dues. How can we restructure that?
Well, the county's not paying for it. It's deducted from their,
Right, let's
Hourly
make it a
salary.
little where they have to pay their own bills. And if they want to be part of the union, they can pay themselves with their own check, their union fees.
I don't know.
Yeah, might have to be careful with that. So.
Why?
yeah, Well,
If I want to be an Elks member, I have to pay for it. If I want to be a member of whatever else, it comes out of me. I don't say, hey, Julianne, can you take this out of my check? Can you do this? Can you do this? No,
I understand what you're saying.
Mhm.
I think if they could take this and say, it's an attempt to deter membership and
It's-
exercise of the right.
it's an attempt of fiscal responsibility for what you want to be a part of.
Well, that doesn't really go hand in hand with unions. This is
I thi-
decades of history in the U.S. show.
If you want to be a part of the union, then you go be a part of the union and don't take it out of our, otherwise, do we charge, when we have deductions out of a check, do we charge administration fees for doing that? We need to do that then.
We
If we're-
also allow employees to have monies deducted into their savings accounts at that bank or another bank.
And so when we do child support payments, you're allowed to take an administration fee for child support payments. So why are we not allowed to take an administration fee for union payments?
We may be able to. I'll check.
I mean, if we're gonna do it, here's part of the income process right here.
We don't take an administrative fee for child support payments when we, when we pay those.
But you have that option to do that.
It probably depends on the actual garnishment, but that's not something that we've ever done.
For the commissioners' awareness, the previous fiscal year,
Which is this current year, actually.
okay, this current year, we actually started with less than what we're starting with this year. So we started this current year with 37,538,000, and we'll be starting this upcoming year with 42,735,000, almost 42,800,000. So that's a $5 million
And
increase.
the budgeted revenue for the start of this year was 42.9 million, which is slightly less than what we're budgeting for 26.
Part of that is because James is getting the property tax rate up where it's supposed to be.
The property
instead
tax,
of-
I don't have any estimates on how that's gonna be affected yet. We don't have that from James yet. So, all we can do is look at the gross receipts tax it's gone up somewhat, but with the economy the way that it's been, people are probably not spending as much as they would be otherwise. Hopefully that will turn around, especially if they do pass the, no tax on overtime and some of those things, so.
So, am I reading this wrong? You started out with that, and this is your cost? So what is that 18 million?
Well,
Oh,
that's the cash.
Beginning
And then
cash.
that's the revenue.
Okay,
Take that out, take that out, take that out.
The IRB that's on the agenda next week, in a year or so, will be, possibly around $200,000 of revenue that'll be new and coming in.
And then we also have a presentation by another group that wants IRBs as well for you to consider. So that's another form of revenue that we could be looking at if you approve.
So Gerald, what RB was saying is this estimated beginning cash, this year we're starting with 42. Last year we started with 38.
Oh, okay, that's where you got that.
Yes.
Yeah, a 5 million increase.
All I'm asking is for Julianne to be able to show us that if you take what we're asking for, it doesn't put us in the hole and we can survive. That's all I'm asking. And I can't get it through my little brain, if you're not got that much more money coming in, how does that pot ever get really bigger enough to pay the extras? That's where I'm trying to get, is just explain it in
You
black and white.
wouldn't be doing your job or being fiscally responsible if you weren't asking those questions. Unfortunately, we're not the federal government, and there's caps that
Yeah.
don't allow us to run a deficit. So we can't print it, we can't print money either. So.
Why can't we buy one of those printers?
Yeah,
Monopoly money doesn't work, so we'll take it out of fiscal account.
yeah.
So are we getting the GRTs and stuff off of like the cannabis sales and stuff? That's-
Yes.
Because Chaparral is all, that comes straight to us. The stuff in Alamogordo goes to Alamogordo and then a little
Right,
pinch
we're not-
to us.
Well, we are receiving a portion of the gross receipts tax from the cannabis that's in the incorporated areas, but there's no way to know for sure how much that is because it's lumped together with retail sales, with all retail sales. But there's that separate excise tax, which we have in a separate fund, and we receive that only on the county area cannabis locations.
But
And I
isn't it
believe
how-
that- I can't remember what the percentage is, it's supposed to be
It's 12%.
possibly, is it 12?
Yeah.
And they were talking about it being increased. I don't know if they ever put a cap on that or not, but it was supposed to incrementally increase over the next, like, 5 years, I
That
think.
is true, that did pass.
But
Yep.
if something is sold in Otero County, why don't we get all the gross receipts tax on it?
Because the city
Yeah.
has to
Good.
have theirs.
And the state has theirs.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you go down and say I do some work for a person, I build them a house in the county, I only charge county rate tax,
Right.
okay? And that comes, I mean, well, it goes to the state also, but, never mind.
But we get a portion of everything in
Yeah.
the city.
And our average excise tax is 3,500-ish a month, I think, right?
Yeah, so, it's between 50, around 50,000 a year-ish, so yeah.
Yeah.
50 to 60,000 a year is what we're getting on that. Some months it's more, some months it's less. It just depends on
Open up a
their
platform,
sales.
Gerald, and help with our GRT.
Get a big picture of that.
Make sure it's in the county.
Yeah.
Hey, I just saw where there's another one opening up here, it's just what we need is another,
Well, you know, we have a huge farm going in north of Tularosa, and I know that Tularosa in the past has had discussions of extending their boundary lines so that they can have that money, just so you know. I don't know if we're allowed to fight that, so that we can keep the money, but. Okay, I like merit-based, but merit-based is more expensive than percentage-based. So we need to make a decision, what's more important, percentage or merit?
I think merit.
I like merit too.
I mean, I can, like I said, I can give you a summary from all the requests for specific merit requests. Take that and add it to like a 3% to see where we're at. Just a thought. Because for the departments that asked for, you know, a specific dollar amount across everybody or a specific percentage across everybody, that's not merit per se. You know what I mean? That's more just for everyone in the department.
The merit deal is gonna be better. The example I said with about Tom people, that's, I mean, it's not fair to them. Let them make, and be able to make some more money for doing a better job. I'm not saying that the other ones don't do a good job. Let me rephrase that. Everybody, I think, in the county is doing fantastic, but it's, I don't know, when you do a percentage, your high-paid people make more money, and your lower-paid people, they just kind of take it in the shorts again.
Well, I'd like to see that, figure out what the merit-based ask is, and then the 3%. We'll see where
I
we're
can
at.
do that, and I can also do merit-based plus you know, like a flat dollar amount increase. Like a $1.50 or something, and compare that with like the 3%, just, I don't know, or whatever, a dollar or something. So you can see the difference between the merit plus a percent or the merit asks plus a dollar amount.
So, being Tom's sitting here and everything's on his shoulders today, Pamela's
There be-
5%, she was asking for her department heads. If you go through and break, say, Tom's deal, then you ask money for you. And then you're asking money to give him
You have to decide
also.
which one.
Yes, you're gonna have, you can't add them all together, is what I'm
So if
saying.
what Pamela asked for was less than what a department asked for, I put what the department asked for, just so that we would have, you know, everything in there that could potentially, you know, be cut or whatever. I'd rather have more in there that you could potentially reduce than.
So you're not
enough
doubling
that-
up is one of the questions I'm gonna ask you.
Yeah.
No, there's not a 5 and a 10,000 or a 10%. No, it's one that she put in.
See what you can come up with, but figure out where it gotta come from, and how it's paid for. That's all my deal right there.
Piece of cake, right?
Absolutely.
David, you wanna talk about yours?
There.
Might as well. One question before we get really, the law enforcement agencies, let's just say the state of New Mexico, because that's all are they all union?
Majority of them are. I don't have a number as to how many are and aren't, but I know your larger ones, you know, Albuquerque, their union's probably the strongest in the state, and we wind up fighting them more than helping, you know, so.
APD here in town are they union?
Yes.
Cloudcroft, are they union?
There's real small agencies like that, they're not going to be, but, yeah, even when I worked at the PD long ago, I mean, I was part of that union there that, so, yeah, they've been unionized for a long time.
I was just kind of wondering how that played out.
I think you get, probably over 20 people and stuff like that, 20 deputies
Yeah.
or officers or whatever, that's when they start looking at joining the Albuquerque union and stuff.
So a lot of this is pretty much, your hands are tied to what the union says, or what they negotiate when you go to negotiations?
Yeah, I know that they negotiated, they had a meeting, it didn't last too long because they weren't sure what do we have to play with? What are we looking at, you know, what kind of monies do we have or anything like that? So I think they've, is it the 12th or?
I think so.
Something like that, around the 12th or something is when they're supposed to meet again, so.
12th of May?
Yes. And they'll discuss that. I presented this because I think this is fair. This is what we need to work with, to stay competitive with local, you know, surrounding agencies. And again, you know, we didn't get one last year, so I just thought this was a fair deal to ask for. Again, I personally, I would like to try to
That's 18%.
give everybody, if, I've always preached fair and equitable across the board, you know? So that's why I went with the dollar amount instead of a percentage, because I got some guys that have been there for 25 years, they're gonna get a $10 an hour raise. And I got some guys who've been there 2 years, they're gonna get a $2 an hour raise, you know? So that's why I've kind of gone with that dollar amount across the board.
And there's guys there that makes more than the boss.
A lot more.
There is guys there, from my sergeants and up, they all make more than me and the under.
Nothing wrong with that picture.
And I'm at the point where we're working on, I know the next sheriff coming in, he'll get a pretty substantial raise out of it. It's not about the money for me. Yeah, I'm happy with what I got. Would I be happier with more? Oh, yeah, I would. But at this point, it's not about me, it's about the agency. How can I, work with, getting my guys trained and provide a professional service for the county. So that's where I'm at.
So is his numbers in, it's not in the budget, huh?
So the $3 per hour that he requested, that is in the
The
number in the budget
1.3
already.
million or whatever?
However, the additional deputies are not. The 3 additional deputies, I did not include that.
Get my glasses so I can see it.
And that's where, if they are able to get an additional COPS grant, it would offset some of the salaries for the 3 additional deputies.
We've been watching 3 different grants, COPS grants. One of them is we can't get it, but we can assist school districts and stuff for Safer Schools grants and stuff. So Cloudcroft Schools has asked us to partner with them to see if we can get them. It's a $300,000 grant. So we've been watching these grants and stuff. The COPS grant will be opening soon. And I would put in, agenda item, to show y'all kind of what the grant would be, the dollar amount and stuff. And this is pretty much based on the last COPS grant that we got. That's how it worked out. I think with these 3 positions, it would, $65,178. But again, we have to budget the money, and then we're going to get reimbursed. As every quarter, Julianne sends in a reimbursement request and stuff, and gets the money back. So, but yeah, that money would have to be.
It has to be budgeted in, but, so you've got a year and a half left, and the next sheriff, say he doesn't chase these grants.
Somebody's going to have to. 'Cause I'll tell you right now, I'll tell you what we cannot live on county money alone. If we want new vehicles, if we want to get, progress with, purchasing weapons, stuff like that, upgrading all this stuff. In 6 years, I brought in just a little over $16 million in grants. And that's how we get kind of the bells and whistles, and upgrades and stuff like that. Whoever the next sheriff would be, they're gonna have to keep chasing grants. If they don't, they're gonna be hurting.
Well, you did. Did the previous one?
No.
Okay, so that doesn't mean the next one's going to either. That's my saying. We're
Right.
building a big pot up, you're trying to,
Yeah.
and if they don't, then you gotta figure it out on the budget, which I won't be here then, so that's not I ain't gonna worry about it.
Right, right. Depend on, how the election would go and stuff, who gets in there. I've always told them that when it's time for me to be gone, that, I'll hang around a while. I'll help you. I'll show you where I get money. I'll show you what grants we go after. I will help you with that, whoever it is. Yeah, we've got to chase those grants. We got to keep chasing them and getting that money. You know, just like, capital outlay, you know, I didn't ask for anything this year. You know, we had a little extra money, we got our capital outlay projects done, or they're in progress right now, trying to get finished up. So, yeah, I didn't ask for anything there, because right now, I don't need it. I think this is more important to me right now, is trying to stay competitive with surrounding agencies and stuff.
Is this something that we want to call for another meeting so that we can address what we can't see right now, what we're asking Julianne to put together?
We've got another one on the, what, 27th or something?
But that's the final, I mean, right, that's
It's
when
to
we,
approve the interim. You can make some changes.
You can make some changes between the interim and the final.
And then there'll be one more after that.
For the final,
When we do-
final.
Yeah.
The final
when
one
we-
gets submitted on July 31st.
right,
The interim, we submit that June 1st, and that's what gives us the authority to start spending money on July 1st. So anything that's approved in the interim budget, even capital outlay, any of that, we can spend that money starting July 1st. And then if there are any additional changes based upon new information that we get, like if he gets a grant or something, that can be added to the final budget. We can make changes there.
But salaries should be decided in interim, correct?
It
Because they
should
would go
be
in
decided
effect in
during the
July.
interim, if possible. And, you know, if you make decisions even on that meeting on the 27th, like I said, that still gives me 4 days. It's not gonna take me 4 days to make those changes and update it. It has to be submitted June 1st by 11:59 PM, and I could do that, so. But in the meantime, I will send you, you know, these updated numbers with the individuals that have been requested for merits, and take a look at that on top of, you know, a percentage or a dollar amount increase as a thought, so.
So we don't really need to have another meeting in between time.
There will be, so after we submit the interim budget, there will be a meeting toward the end of July for you to approve the final budget.
But we don't need to have another meeting between now and the
I don't
27th?
think so.
I don't think so.
Okay.
so addressing it on the 27th and saying, okay, we see the differences in the,
Right. I mean, you
Wage
can direct
request.
me to pull whatever numbers. That's just my suggestion, is to, you know, give you all the merit-based increases, and, you know, you already have like the 3% and the $1.50 and all of that. So if you want to direct me to look at something other than that, just let me know and I can get that information for you. I'll get it to you before the meeting on the 27th. I'll email it to you, but then we can present it on the 27th. You can make your decisions at that point.
We're meeting with the union again on the 12th,
I believe that's when it is, I'd have to.
and they initially proposed $4.25 per hour.
Yeah, something like that.
And, but that was pending also getting a feel for where the commission was at on such.
So, I know it's late, but could you get your deal and have it for next Thursday, just to bring in? Could we add it to the agenda for next Thursday?
Well, we'd have to redo the books, and it has to be, we
It'd
post
just
it
be
today.
one
Yeah,
one insert.
we can, I can get that done, but you want to have that extensive discussion at a regular meeting?
Well, this is open to the public.
Well, no, but I'm saying, with 20-something agenda items, you want to do that in addition. That's what I'm
To
asking.
me, the agenda next week looked pretty easy to me. If you're wanting to know a little number, a little head start
I
before the
can add it.
27th, that's where I say to get it.
Okay.
let's just, yeah.
If you can get it done by then. I think it'd
So
be,
what you're asking then is you want me to give you the merit-based increases, and then.
All that information for next Thursday, budget
Yeah,
work
I
session.
should be able to get that to you before
Let me
Thursday.
stop her from
So
publishing.
it's probably not gonna be, you know, printed in the books, just because the books don't need to be printed.
no, you
Well,
wanting the
they've already
basic
been
deal
printed.
so
books
we
are
can
already
figure
done.
it out, or we'll kind of have an idea, and that we can make a decision on the 27th.
Yes.
Yes,
I mean, it'd be 2 or 3 pages, and I see it would come in with what it is, and then an answer on where it's gonna come from. That's all I need. I can vote for it right now if you give me an answer where it's gonna come from.
Okay, I will add a budget work session to next Thursday's meeting. To make life easier for staff, I will make it the last item. And the only thing that will change in your book technically is the agenda itself. So if you want to go ahead and take your books today, then I'll just send you a new agenda that
Yeah.
goes in front of your book.
Okay.
We can just pick up that insert and we'll be done with
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm on it.
Okay, I feel better about that because I don't feel
Yeah.
like we're diving deep enough in this.
okay. Okay, we got anything else before we?
Mm.
Okay, well, I guess we are adjourned.
Yeah.